The great arena was alive with noise. Lights blazed down from the ceiling, shining on the fighting floor made of black stone. Thousands of voices mixed together, deep alien growls, sharp screeches, and laughter that rattled the air. Every seat was full. Creatures from across the galaxy had come to watch the game. At the center of it all, inside a tall glass cage, stood a woman. Her long hair fell across her shoulders, and her eyes were sharp, glowing faintly under the lights. Chains bound her wrists, but she stood tall, proud, as if she was not afraid. Everyone knew she was the prize. The winner of the contest would claim her. That was the bet. The alien lords sat in their golden chairs above the crowd. They were giants, dressed in armor, their skin covered in patterns of scales, spikes, or fur. They were rich, powerful, and cruel. They laughed loudly, pointing toward the cage. "She is rare," one of them said, his voice echoing. "The last of her kind, worth more than any jewel." Another lord smirked. "Then let her be the prize. Let us see who can win her." The crowd cheered. Bets were shouted, fortunes exchanged. Names of alien champions filled the air. Each warrior was larger than life monsters, with claws, wings, or glowing weapons built into their bodies. Then, a ripple of laughter spread through the arena. A human had stepped forward. He was tall, yes, but compared to the hulking beasts around he looked small, weak. His skin was plain, his body unarmored. There were no claws, no scales, no shining weapons. Just flesh, bone, and simple eyes. The aliens laughed louder. "A human?" One barked. "This one is a joke. Send him back to his dirt planet." Another jeered. But the man did not turn back. His eyes lifted to the cage. For a brief moment, his gaze locked with the woman's. She tilted her head, curious. There was no fear in his eyes, no begging, no shame. Only fire. The announcer, a tall insect-like creature with too many arms, raised his voice. "The contest begins. Many will fight. Only one will claim the prize. Place your bets now." The arena shook with excitement. The first round was announced. An alien beast, twice the man's size, stepped onto the stone floor. Its skin was red and rough like armor. Its mouth was filled with teeth sharp enough to cut steel. The creature roared, and the crowd roared back. The human just stood still, calm, silent. "Look at him," one of the lords sneered, already frozen in fear. But the woman in the cage leaned closer to the glass. No, he was not frozen. He was studying, measuring. The bell rang. The beast charged. The human moved. He was not fast compared to the creature, but he was smart. He dodged at the last second, the beast's claws scraping across the stone floor with a sound like knives. The crowd gasped. The man had survived the first strike. Again, the beast lunged. Again, the human slipped away, using the creature's size against it. He kept moving, always just out of reach. The alien grew angrier with each miss. Its roars shook the walls. And then the moment. The human bent low, grabbed a broken piece of stone from the floor, and as the beast turned its head, he drove it into the creature's eye. A scream split the air. The crowd erupted in shock. The beast staggered, blind on one side, slamming against the wall. The human did not stop. He climbed onto the monster's back, gripping tightly, and struck again and again until the giant collapsed to the floor with a final heavy thud. Silence. The arena froze. No one had expected this. A human, the weakest of all species, had just defeated a beast that even trained warriors feared. The man stood, chest rising and falling with his breath, his face streaked with sweat and dust. He did not cheer. He did not bow. He only lifted his head again toward the cage. The woman's lips curved into the faintest smile. Then the silence broke. The crowd screamed, not with laughter this time, but with shock, with anger, with new bets. Shouted louder than before. Some aliens cheered for him. Others demanded his death in the next round. The lords shifted uneasily in their seats. No longer laughing so loudly, the insect announcer spread its arms wide. Round 1 goes to the human. The arena roared, half in rage, half in awe. And the woman whispered to herself, so quietly that no one but she could hear, "This is going to be interesting." Asterisk, the impossible challenger, the arena, did not rest. The stone floor was still stained with the blood of the beast the human had slain. The crowd had not stopped shouting since. Some screamed in anger, some in disbelief, and some just a few shouted with excitement. But the alien lords were not pleased. Their faces, once laughing and full of mockery, now tightened. A human was never meant to win. A human was meant to be torn apart, to be a joke. And yet the man still stood, alive, his eyes calm, his breathing steady. The insect announcer's many eyes blinked as it lifted its arms. Round 2, it screeched, voice echoing across the walls. The human will now face the impossible challenge. Gasps filled the air. The crowd knew the name well. The impossible challenge was not a single fight. It was a trial of survival. A test where even the strongest warriors often fell. No one had ever passed it. The woman in the cage pressed her hand against the glass. Her sharp eyes narrowed. She had seen many warriors die in this trial. Even the bravest had broken. But the human, he did not look afraid. Not yet. The floor of the arena shifted. Stone plates groaned and slid apart. From the gaps rose machines of alien design towers of sharp blades, walls that spat fire, and pits that opened into black emptiness. The arena itself became a death trap, and then came the hunters. The first was tall, its body a tangle of metal and flesh, 6 legs stabbing the floor like spears. Its face was a skull of steel with burning red eyes. The second crawled out from the shadows, a lizard-like alien with venom dripping from its teeth. Behind them, a third, a hulking brute with 4 arms, each carrying a weapon soaked in poison. The impossible challenge had begun. The crowd roared with bloodlust. The human stepped forward, slow and steady. His eyes swept the floor, the traps, the monsters. He did not rush. He studied. Every detail mattered. The hunters moved first. The lizard alien hissed and darted forward, its tongue snapping like a whip. The man ducked low, rolling across the stone as the tongue lashed past his head, cutting a scar into the floor. The crowd gasped before he could rise. The steel-legged machine crashed down at him. He leapt aside, the ground shattering where its legs struck. Dust flew into the air. The human coughed, eyes stinging, but he kept moving. The brute laughed, a sound like thunder, and swung its 4 arms at once. The man barely slipped away, the blades cutting the edge of his shirt. 1 strike more, and his chest would have been open. He was small, yes, but he was quick, and his mind was sharper than any weapon. The woman in the cage gripped her chains tighter. She could see it. The human wasn't fighting with raw power. He was fighting with patience, with calculation. Every dodge, every step, every movement had purpose. The crowd shouted louder. Some cursed. Some cheered. The machine struck again. This time, the human did not dodge fully. Instead, he leapt onto its steel leg, climbing upward like a spider. The beast thrashed, trying to shake him off. But he climbed higher, reaching the joint where steel met flesh. Without hesitation, he drove his hand into the crack and tore free a wire slick with blood. The machine screamed. Sparks flew, its red eyes flashing wildly. It stumbled backward, crashing into the wall. The crowd exploded in noise, but there was no time. The lizard alien lunged again, mouth wide, venom spraying across the stone. The man slipped on the slick floor and fell. The alien's jaws snapped down so close he could feel the heat of its breath dot at the last second. He shoved the broken wire from the machine into the lizard's mouth. The creature bit down, and its body jerked with a violent crackle of electricity. It shrieked, flailing before collapsing into smoke and silence. 2 down, 1 to go. The brute stared at the human with fury. The crowd had grown silent again. Could this human truly survive? Could he pass the impossible challenge? The brute charged. Its forearms swung, one after another, striking like hammers. The man blocked with stone fragments, dodged beneath each strike, but he was tiring. His breath grew heavier. His movements slowed. The woman's heart raced. She could see his body weakening, blood dripping from cuts across his arms and face. But his eyes, they still burned. The brute lifted him by the neck and slammed him against the wall. The crowd screamed with joy. It was over. The human gangled, choking, his body shaking. The brute leaned close, its hot breath washing over him. Weak, it growled. All humans are weak, the man coughed. His lips curled into a bloody smile. Not today. He reached into his belt, pulled free the broken, sparking wire he had taken from the machine, and jammed it against the brute's throat. Electricity surged. The brute howled, muscles convulsing, its forearms shaking violently. A man tore himself free and drove. The wire deeper. With a final roar, the brute collapsed to the floor, smoke rising from its chest. Silence. The impossible challenge was over. The human stood alone, bloodied, broken, but alive. The announcer's voice cracked as it tried to speak. The human has survived the impossible challenge. The arena erupted. Some shouted his name, though they did not know it. Some demanded his death. Others threw down their bets, furious at their loss. But the woman in the cage did not shout. She smiled, slowly, coldly, because she knew now this was not luck. This was not chance. This was something else. This human had come to win, and he would not stop. Above them, the alien lords whispered in anger. This was dangerous. This was not supposed to happen. A human had passed the impossible challenge. If he could do this, what else was he capable of? The human looked up once more, his eyes meeting the woman's. She tilted her head. And for the first time, she whispered words he could not hear, words that might decide both their fates. The rising storm, the arena floor was quiet now, but the silence carried more weight than all the screams before. The impossible challenge was over, yet its shadow still hung heavy in the air. The human stood in the center, chest heaving, his arms dripping with blood, some of it his own, some of it not. His clothes were torn, his face bruised, and yet he remained upright, unbroken. Around him, thousands of eyes, yellow, red, glowing, black stared. Some burned with hate. Some glimmered with awe. But above, in the golden balcony, the alien lords sat in stiff silence. They were not laughing now. Whispers in the stands. The crowd had always mocked humans, fragile creatures. Soft skin, no natural weapons, small bodies compared to beasts of war. But tonight, whispers spread like fire. Did you see how he moved? How he used their own strength against them? One hissed. He survived the impossible challenge. No one survives that. Not even the war champions. Another muttered. What if humans are more dangerous than we thought? No, a third snapped, though his voice shook. It was luck, nothing more. He will die in the next round, but their voices betrayed doubt. For the first time, the galaxy's audience wondered if the weak race was hiding something. The woman in the cage inside her glass prison. The woman never looked away from him. Others saw a battered, bleeding man barely standing. She saw something different. His body was failing, yes, but his spirit, his will was sharper than any blade. Her lips parted as if she wanted to speak, but chains pulled her back. She pressed, her palm against the glass, whispering to herself, "This one, he doesn't fight like the others. He fights like someone who knows the value of survival." She had been offered as a prize for this contest, a symbol of the alien lord's arrogance. But she knew the truth. She was no prize. She was bait. And now, for the first time, she wondered if perhaps this human was the predator who had walked into the trap. Behind the curtain, in the chambers above the arena, the alien lords gathered in anger. Their voices shook the walls. This cannot continue. One roared, pounding a clawed fist against the table. A human making fools of us in front of the galaxy? It is not only embarrassment, another hissed, her eyes narrow slits. Do you not see? If word spreads that humans can win against our strongest, others will question our rule. Our image of dominance will fracture. The eldest among them, his skin covered in gold-tipped scales, leaned forward. His voice was low and heavy. Then we make sure he does not leave this arena alive. He has already survived more than he should. For the next challenge, there will be no limits, no fairness, only his death. They all agreed. The human rests back in the underground cell where fighters waited between matches. The human sat on the cold floor. His chest rose and fell with a ragged breath. Blood trickled from a cut above his brow. His body ached, but his eyes were steady. He replayed every moment in his mind, the traps, the monsters, the brute's forearms slamming down. Each time, he had come one breath away from death. Each time, he had survived. But survival was not enough. He knew it now. This was not just a game. This was not just about a woman locked in a cage. This was about something larger, something darker. He had seen the way the lords looked at him. He knew they fear him. And when the powerful fear something, they try to destroy it. The connection that night, when the arena finally quieted, the woman appeared before his cell. Guards dragged her in chains, forcing her to stand behind the bars. For a moment, neither spoke. They only looked at each other. Finally, she said, her voice soft but sharp, "Why do you keep fighting? What do you gain from this?" The human wiped the blood from his lip and smiled faintly. "Because I must. Because they don't expect me to." Her eyes narrowed. "You're not here by accident, are you? You came here on purpose." He said nothing, but the silence was louder than words. She leaned closer to the bars, her voice dropping. "Then you should know something. I am not just a prize. I hold knowledge they fear, secrets of their empire. If I speak them aloud, their power crumbles. That is why they chain me. That is why they offer me as bait." The human met her gaze, unflinching. "Then we both have reasons to win." Her lips curled, the faintest trace of a smile. For the first time in years, hope sparked in her chest. The Lord's trap the next day. The announcer's voice screeched across the arena once more. "Citizens of the galaxy, witness the third trial. Tonight, the human will face not one, not two, but 3 champions at once." The crowd roared. Some with excitement, some with rage, some with disbelief. It was unheard of. No fighter was ever made to face 3 champions in a single round. It was a death sentence, but the Lord smiled from above. This was their trap. Below, the gates opened. From the shadows stepped a warrior covered in obsidian armor, his eyes glowing like fire. Beside him slithered a serpent the size of 10 men, its fangs dripping with venom. And behind them, a silent assassin with blades longer than his body. His movements smooth as flowing water. The arena shook with their arrival. The human stood at the center, smaller than them all, his fists clenched, his breath steady. He looked up toward the golden balcony. Where the Lord sat, they expected fear. They expected him to crumble. Instead, he gave them the same faint smile he had given the woman in the cage. And in that moment, a storm began to rise, not in the arena, but in the hearts of all who watched. A storm of doubt. A storm of fear. A storm called humanity. The woman's realization in her cage. The woman pressed her forehead against the glass, eyes wide. She had been a prisoner for years, had seen champions fall, had watched hundreds die. None had ever stood like this human. Not with strength, not with claws, not with armor. But with something greater. Something the aliens could never crush. She whispered again, this time with awe, if he survives this, the galaxy will never be the same. The turning point. The gates of the arena yawned open, and the champions stepped forward like nightmares given flesh. The first, the armored juggernaut, was a tower of black obsidian plates, each scarred from battles across 100 worlds. His fists were like boulders, his voice a rumbling growl that shook the stands. The second, the serpent slithered forward, scales glimmering green and gold, its tongue tasting the air. Venom dripped from its fangs, sizzling as it touched the stone floor. The third, the assassin, moved in silence. His body was lean, cloaked in shadows, and in each hand gleamed a blade forged from living crystal. The crowd strained their eyes, but he seemed to vanish even in the blazing arena light. 3 champions, 3 legends, all against one man. The crowds frenzied. The stands exploded in noise. Some roared with excitement. Others booed, angry that the fight was unfair. Some shouted bets, throwing down fortunes on the outcome. Yet beneath the noise ran an undercurrent of fear. What if he wins again? He can't, not against 3. But what if he does? The thought spread like a sickness. What if this human, this creature they had mocked, could survive the impossible again? The human stands alone. The human stood in the center of the stone floor, bruised, bleeding, but steady. His chest rose and fell, but his eyes were calm. His fists clenched, his stance low. He knew the truth. This was not a fight. It was an execution. But he had no intention of dying today. His gaze flicked up toward the balcony where the alien lords sat, their jeweled robes glittering. They leaned forward, hungry to watch his death. He gave them no sign of fear. Only silence. Then his eyes slid to the cage. The woman stood pressed against the glass, her chains rattling. She did not shout. She did not cry. But her eyes burned, as if willing him to live. The bell rang. The first clash, the armored juggernaut charged first. Each step cracked the stone beneath his feet. He swung his massive fist down toward the human's head. The human darted aside, the blow smashing into the floor, sending shards of black stone flying. He rolled forward, striking the juggernaut's knee with all his strength. The armor held. The giant laughed. The serpent struck next, lightning fast, its fangs snapping inches from his face. He twisted, shoving a broken shard of stone into its mouth. Venom splashed, sizzling against his arm, burning his skin. He hissed in pain, but did not stop moving. Then the assassin appeared. Silent, invisible. A blade slashed across the human's shoulder before he even saw it. Blood sprayed, hot and sharp. He staggered back, scanning wildly, but the assassin was already gone, only the shimmer of his outline betraying him. The crowd roared with each strike. The lords leaned forward, eyes glittering with satisfaction. This was what they wanted. The human broken, torn apart, humiliated. A mind like fire, but the human did not break. Every move, every strike, every wound, he studied them. The juggernauts. Heavy armor slowed him. The serpent's venom corroded anything it touched, even stone. The assassin's invisibility flickered under bright light. Asterisk weaknesses. There were always weaknesses. He dodged the juggernaut again, this time leading the giant's charge into one of the arena's fire traps. A jet of flame burst upward, washing over the armored monster. The crowd gasped as black obsidian glowed red-hot. The giant roared, swinging wildly. The serpent lunged again, but the human kicked loose a stone plate and shoved it between its fangs. Venom splashed over the plate, dissolving it instantly. His eyes narrowed. If that venom could eat through stone, maybe it could eat through armor too. The assassin appeared again, his blade arcing toward the human's throat. The human ducked, letting the blade graze his cheek instead of severing his head. His fist snapped upward, catching the assassin's ribs. It wasn't enough to drop him, but the sound of the assassin's grunt told him something important. He could be hurt. 3 champions. 3 weaknesses. Blood and strategy minutes stretched into eternity. The human bled from 6 cuts. His burns throbbed. His muscles screamed with exhaustion. But he kept moving, kept fighting, kept thinking. The juggernaut slammed the ground again, cracks racing through the arena floor. The serpent coiled around the human's leg, dragging him toward its dripping fangs. The assassin appeared at his back, blades ready to plunge into his spine. It was over. The crowd screamed, but the human did not give up at the last second. He twisted, driving the serpent's head upward just as the juggernaut's fist came down. The serpent shrieked as its skull cracked under the giant's blow. Venom sprayed everywhere, splashing across the juggernaut's red-hot armor. The crowd froze as smoke hissed. Obsidian armor bubbled, melting under the venom's touch. The juggernaut roared, stumbling backward as plates of armor dripped from his body. The woman in the cage grinned for the first time. The assassin's strike, but victory was not his yet. The assassin saw his chance. As the juggernaut reeled, the assassin appeared behind the human, blades raised high. The crowd held its breath. The human, sensing the shadow, spun. Too late, the assassin's blade plunged toward his heart, only to spark as it struck the broken wire the human had wrapped around his chest beneath his torn shirt. A trick, a trap. The assassin froze for 1/2 second. It was enough. The human drove his head forward, smashing his skull into the assassin's nose. Bone cracked. The assassin staggered. The human ripped the blade from his hand and buried it. In his chest, the silent killer fell without a sound. The turning point, now only 2 remained. The serpent, still writhing, and the juggernaut, his armor melting from venom burns. The human staggered, bleeding, gasping. The crowd leaned forward, desperate. The juggernaut roared and charged, one last desperate strike. The serpent lunged beside him. The human closed his eyes for 1/2 a heartbeat. Then he moved. He leapt aside, dragging the serpent's tail into this juggernaut's path. The 2 collided, venom spraying, armor cracking. With a scream that shook the arena, both beasts crashed into the pit trap, flames bursting high into the air. When the smoke cleared, the human stood alone. Shock and silence. The arena was silent. Silent in a way it had never been. 3 champions lay dead. 1 human stood breathing. Slowly, the crowd erupted, not with laughter, not with jeers, but with chaos. Some screamed his name. Some demanded his execution. Some fell to silence, staring in disbelief. Above, the Lord sat frozen. Their trap had failed. Their power had been mocked before the entire galaxy. And in the cage, the woman's smile grew sharper. She pressed her hand to the glass and whispered, "Now it begins." Because this was no longer about survival, This was war. Asterisk the prize speaks. The arena smelled of smoke and blood. 3 champions lay dead, their bodies broken and scattered across the black stone floor. And one man, human, fragile, bruised, bleeding, still stood. The crowd did not know what to do. They had come for slaughter, for laughter at the expense of a weak species. Instead, they had witnessed the impossible. Some roared in anger, demanding his death. Others cheered wildly, betting fortunes on his next fight. But most sat in silence, stunned. The storm of whispers rolled through the stands. If a human can do this, what else are they capable of? This changes everything. The lords in rage above, in their golden seats, the alien lords seethed. Their trap had failed. 3 champions had died before the eyes of the galaxy, and their empire's strength had cracked like glass. This cannot continue, one snarled, his scaled fist slamming the arm of his chair. Every breath that creature takes insults us. Then end it now, another hissed. Crush him before he gains more strength. But the eldest among them, whose voice always carried the weight of final command, shook his head slowly. No, not yet. If we kill him now, the crowd will say we feared him. Let him continue. Let him suffer. Let the galaxy watch as he bleeds out in the later rounds. A cruel smile spread across his face. And when he finally falls, they will cheer louder than ever. The others hesitated, but one by one they nodded. The game would continue. The woman's eyes in her cage, the woman watched him. Her chains rattled softly as she leaned forward, palms pressed against the glass. For years she had been the prize, a symbol of the Lord's cruelty, an ornament they flaunted to show their power. She had seen warriors fight and die for her, none of them worthy. But this man was different, not because he was strong, though he was stronger than any expected. Not because he was clever, though his mind cut sharper than any blade. But because he would not stop. He bled, yes. He stumbled, yes. But his will, it was unbroken. For the first time, she felt a flicker of something long buried. Hope, a human in chains after the battle. Guards dragged the human back into the dark cells below. They bound his wrists with steel cuffs, though his body swayed. With exhaustion, he said nothing. He did not resist. He let them chain him to the wall like an animal. Hours passed. His wounds throbbed. His breath rattled in his chest. A taste of iron filled his mouth, but his mind did not rest. He replayed every moment of the fight, every strike, every weakness, every decision. He studied the enemy, even now, because he knew the next challenge would be worse. The Lords would not stop until he was broken. Asterisk, the cell door creaked open. 2 guards stepped in, dragging chains behind them. Between them, in shackles, was the woman. The guards locked her chains to the opposite wall, then left without a word. For a long moment, the cell was silent. Then she spoke. "You should be dead," she said softly. Her voice carried strength, but also curiosity. The human looked up at her, his face shadowed. "I've heard that before." Her lips twitched, almost a smile. "You fight differently. Not like a warrior, not like a beast. You fight like someone who has already decided he cannot lose." He leaned his head back against the wall, closing his eyes. "Maybe I have." The secret the woman shifted, chains clinking as she stepped closer. Her eyes burned into his. "They don't keep me here because I am a prize," she whispered. "They keep me because I am a danger." The human's eyes opened. For the first time, there was no mask of calm, only interest. "Go on," he said. She lowered her voice, so quiet that only he could hear. "I carry knowledge they fear. I was part of their empire once, before they turned me into a trophy. I learned things, secrets that could shatter their power. I know the names of their hidden fleets. I know the weaknesses of their armies. I know what they have tried to bury. The human's jaw tightened. If I speak those secrets to the galaxy, she continued, their empire will crumble. But they cannot kill me outright, because to do so would raise questions. So they cage me, and they wait. They hope I will wither into silence. She leaned closer, her chains groaning. But I will not wither. And now, seeing you fight, I believe I have found the weapon I need. Asterisk the choice, the human stared at her. His breath was slow, steady again. You want me to fight for you? No, she said, shaking her head. I want you to fight with me. If we survive this contest, if we escape this arena, then together we can bring down everything they have built. Not just for me, not just for you, but for every species they have chained under their rule. For the first time, silence stretched. Between them, heavy and alive Dot, then the human spoke, his voice low. If you have the knowledge, and I have the will, then maybe we have a chance. She smiled, a sharp, dangerous smile. Yes, maybe. The guards returned. Their moment was broken by the sound of boots. The cell door slammed open, and guards stormed in. Without a word, they unchained the woman and dragged her away. She glanced back at the human once, her eyes burning. Then the door slammed shut, and she was gone. The human sat alone again. His fists clenched until his knuckles turned white. Dot, now he understood. The fights were not just survival. They were war. And the woman was not just a prize. She was the spark of something larger, something the galaxy had never seen. Dot above. The Lords plot that night. The alien lords gathered again in their golden chamber. He is more dangerous than we thought. One spat, then make the next trial his grave. Another snarled. No more games, no more chances. End him. The eldest lord leaned back, eyes glimmering. Not yet. His survival entertains the crowd. It keeps them watching. It keeps them betting. We will let him rise higher. And then, when he believes he is close to victory, we will tear him apart, slowly, publicly. They all nodded, their laughter echoing through the chamber. Asterisk the woman's whisper back in her cage. The woman lay chained, staring at the arena floor far below. She remembered the look in the human's eyes, the way he had not flinched when she spoke her secret. She whispered to herself, a vow that no one else could hear. They think I am their prize. They think he is their fool. But together we will be their end. The rising storm, and so the stage was set. The human bloodied but unbroken. The woman chained but burning with secrets. The lords plotting, fearing, laughing louder than before to hide their unease. And the galaxy watching, whispering, waiting for the next round. The storm was rising, and when it broke, nothing would survive untouched. Asterisk the final gamble. The arena had never been louder. The stands shook with the weight of thousands of voices, and still the roar carried a strange edge, not pure excitement, but something sharper, doubt, fear. The galaxy had seen too much. A human had survived the impossible challenge. A human had killed 3 champions at once. A human had turned mockery into whispers of legend. The alien lords could feel their power slipping, and they hated it. The lords' decision in their golden balcony. The lords gathered close. Their jeweled eyes flickered with rage. He has lasted too long, one spat. The crowd begins to believe in him. He makes us look weak, another growled. Every victory of his is an insult. Then end it, a third hissed. Tonight. The eldest lord leaned forward, his voice cold. Not just end it. Destroy him. Let no trace of him remain. Tonight, the final gamble begins. And when he falls, the galaxy will remember. Humans are nothing. The others nodded. The plan was set. The announcement, the insect announcer, scuttled. To the center of the arena, its many arms raised. Its voice shrieked across the walls. Citizens of the galaxy, tonight witness the greatest trial in the history of the arena. The human has defied death again and again. But tonight, he faces his final challenge, a gamble no one has ever survived. The crowd screamed in shock. Some cheered wildly. Others booed, furious at the unfairness they already smelled. The announcer's mandibles clicked. He will face every surviving champion at once. The claws of beasts, the blades of assassins, the strength of monsters, all against one fragile human. The floor trembled as gates opened. From the shadows emerged horrors. Warriors with bone-plated skin, beasts with claws dripping venom, machines with glowing red eyes. Dozens of killers, each stronger than a single man should ever face. The crowd gasped. Even the wildest arenas had never seen such odds. But this was no contest. It was execution. The human walks, the human entered. The arena through a single iron gate. His steps were slow. His body was battered, blood seeping through his torn clothes. His jaw was bruised, his shoulders hunched, and yet his eyes still burned. He did not look at the monsters waiting for him. He did not look at the lords above. He looked only once at the cage. The woman pressed her chained hands against the glass, her breath fogging the surface. Her lips moved, whispering words he could not hear. But he knew, "You're not just fighting for me. You're fighting for all of us." He gave her the faintest nod. Then the bell rang. The battle of many chaos exploded. The first beast charged, claws tearing up stone. The human slipped aside, grabbing a broken spear from the ground and driving it into the creature's throat. Blood sprayed hot and black. The beast collapsed, but 10 more rushed him. Blades clashed, claws swiped, fire burst from machines. The human ducked, rolled, and fought like a shadow. Every strike was precise. Every move bought him seconds more. Of life, the crowd shrieked, half in awe, half in fury. "Kill him," the Lord shouted from above. "Tear him apart." But still he moved. Still he fought. Blood and fire blade cut across his arm. He cried out, blood pouring down. A claw raked his back. His body staggered, weak, yet his fists did not stop. He kicked a warrior into a fire trap. He turned a beast's venom against its ally. He tore a machine's weapon free and used it to strike another down. For every enemy that fell, 2 more came. His body grew slower, weaker. His vision blurred. And yet he kept fighting, because for him there was no other choice. The woman's cry in her cage. The woman could not stay silent. Her chains rattled as she slammed her fists against the glass. "Fight!" She shouted, her voice lost in the roar of the crowd. "Don't stop. You cannot stop." For a heartbeat, his eyes flicked up to her. He saw her rage, her fire, her faith, and it filled him. He stood straighter. His fists clenched tighter, and he fought harder. Lord's fury. The lords watched in disbelief as the human carved his way through wave after wave. His body was soaked in blood, his own and theirs. His chest heaved, his breath ragged, but he still stood. "This is impossible," one lord spat. "He should be dead." Another roared. The eldest slammed his hand down, his voice cutting like a blade. "Then unleash it. End this now?" The monster hidden gate opened. From the darkness emerged something larger than any beast. Before it was no champion. It was no warrior. It was a weapon, an experiment of flesh and machine, built only to kill. Its body towered over the human, its arms thick as trees, its mouth a furnace of fire. The crowd fell silent. Even they knew this was no contest. Human stared up at it, his chest rising and falling. He was bloodied, broken, near death. But his eyes did not falter. The final gamble, the monster roared, a sound that shook the walls. It charged. The human staggered aside, but too slowly. The beast's fist slammed into him, throwing him across the arena. He hit the wall hard, bones cracking. Blood spilled from his mouth. The woman screamed, her voice raw. The human pushed himself. Up on trembling arms, his vision swam. The world tilted. But he stood. The monster came again, fire spilling from its mouth. The human darted aside, barely alive, barely breathing. He had no strength left, no weapons left. Only will. And will, he knew, was enough. The turning flame, the monster struck again. This time, the human did not dodge. He leapt forward, directly into the fire. The crowd gasped. The flames consumed him, but he burst through, body burning, and drove the stolen blade from the assassin deep into the monster's throat. The beast roared, thrashing, fire spraying wild. The human climbed its body, stabbing again and again. Blood and flames pouring over him. At last, the monster fell, crashing to the stone floor with a quake that rattled the stands. The arena went silent. The human stood atop the corpse, blood dripping, chest heaving. His body was broken, his skin burned, his breath shallow. But his eyes still burned with fire. The galaxy holds its breath. No one spoke. No one moved. The Lord sat frozen. The crowd stared in disbelief. The woman pressed her forehead against the glass, tears on her cheeks. The human raised the bloodied blade high, and the galaxy realized the truth. This was no longer a game. This was no longer a bet. This was war. The human won. Their arena was silent, not the silence of peace, not the silence of calm, but the silence of disbelief. A human stood alone on the corpse of a monster built to kill armies. His body burned, his chest heaving, his blood dripping into the cracks of the stone. And yet he still stood. The galaxy watched, stunned. The crowd, the lords, even the guards who clutched their weapons, they all stared at him as if he were no longer just a man, but something else, something dangerous. The human lifted the blade high. His arm trembled with exhaustion, but his eyes were steady. And for the first time in history, the galaxy feared a human. The crowd breaks, the silence cracked. Some cheered, their voices wild with excitement. Others screamed in rage, demanding his death. Some whispered in shock, too afraid to speak louder. Impossible. No one can survive that. What if humans are not weak? The whispers spread like fire. In one night, the galaxy's idea of humans had changed forever. The woman in the cage, the woman pressed her chains against the glass, her chest rising with heavy breaths. Her eyes were wide, shining not with fear, but with something else. Hope. For years she had been a prize, a trophy, a symbol of the Lord's cruelty. But now she understood. The Lords had made a mistake. By putting her in the cage, by offering her as a prize, they had given her something she never expected. A weapon. A human. She whispered through the glass, though he could not hear. You've done it. You've changed everything. The Lords rage above, in their golden seats, the alien lords no longer smiled. Their jeweled eyes burned with fury. This cannot be allowed, one hissed. He has made us look weak. If the galaxy believes in him, we lose everything, another snarled. Then kill him now. A third roared, but the eldest raised his hand. His voice was steady, cold as steel. No, we cannot kill him here. Not now. The crowd would riot. The galaxy has seen too much. If we slay him in anger, they will whisper forever that we feared him. The eldest's eyes narrowed, but his victory will be hollow. He has won, yes. He will claim the prize. But outside this arena, he will be hunted. He and his kind will be crushed. This is not the birth of a legend. This is the beginning of his death. The others nodded, though unease flickered across their faces. Asterisk, the announcer declares. The insect announcer scuttled forward, its mandibles trembling. It is decided, it screeched, voice cracking. The human has won. The crowd erupted, half in cheers, half in curses. Some threw coins and jewels into the arena in madness. Others stormed toward the exits, furious that the impossible had happened. The announcer lifted its arms higher, and by the law of the arena, the prize is his. All eyes turned to the cage. Asterisk, the chains fall. The glass cage cracked open with a hiss of steam. The woman staggered forward as her chains clattered to the floor. For the first time in years, she was free. The guard stepped back, uncertain. None dared touch her now. She walked slowly, her steps echoing across the silent arena. Her eyes never left the human. When she reached him, she stopped. Blood dripped from his body onto the stone. His chest rose and fell with shallow breaths. He looked at her, weary but unbroken, and she said, loud enough for the galaxy to hear, I was the prize, but now I am his ally. The alliance, the words spread through the crowd like thunder. His ally? She chooses him? This is not victory. This is rebellion. The woman turned, facing the lords. Her chains hung broken at her feet. You thought I was a trophy, she shouted, her voice cutting through the arena. You thought you could cage me forever, but you were wrong. You gave me to the one thing you feared most. A human with the will to fight. Gasps rippled across the stands. The lords shifted uneasily in their seats. The woman's voice rose louder. Tonight, your empire has cracked. Tonight, the galaxy has seen that humans are not prey. They are predators. And this man, this human, you could not break him. You could not stop him. You could not win. The crowd exploded into chaos. Some screamed her name. Some screamed for her death. Some fled in panic. But the words had been spoken, and they could not be unsaid. The human stand, the human dropped to one knee, his strength failing. But he pressed the blade into the stone, holding himself upright. His voice was rough, broken, but steady. I came here as one man, he said, and you all laughed. You thought I was weak. You thought humans were nothing. He raised his head, his eyes burning. But look at me now. Look at the blood on this floor. Look at the champions who lie dead. I am proof of what humans are. I am proof of what we can be. The crowd leaned forward, every ear straining. We do not stop, he said. We do not bow. We fight. And if you think killing me will end this, you are wrong. Because now the galaxy has seen. And now, the galaxy will remember. The Lord's fear for the first time. True fear flickered in the Lord's jeweled eyes. They had mocked. They had laughed. They had planned his death. But the human had done what no one else ever had. He had survived. He had won. He had turned their cruelty into legend. And now the galaxy was watching. If they killed him now, he would become a martyr. If they let him live, he would become a threat. Either way, he had already won. The woman's Vaushi stepped beside him, standing tall, though chains still clung to her wrists. She looked up at the balcony of lords, her voice like a blade. You caged me because I carried secrets that could destroy you. Now I stand free, and now I stand with him. She touched the human's shoulder. Together we will bring you down. The arena shook with the force of her words. The beginning of war, the crowd, was no longer just an audience. It was a battlefield of voices. Some cheered for the lords. Some cheered for the human. Some whispered of rebellion. The galaxy had changed in one night. The human had not just won a prize. He had won an ally. He had won a symbol. He had won the attention of every species that had ever bowed to the lords. And the lords, in their golden seats, finally understood. The storm they had feared was here. The human won, the human stood, battered but unbroken. The woman stood at his side, her eyes burning with secrets dot above them. The lords whispered of death, of war, of vengeance. Around them, the crowd screamed, divided between awe and rage. But none of it mattered, because the truth was clear. The human had won Dot, and now Galaxy would never be the same.